Radha isn't there in the Dvorka Leelas or in the majestic Leelas of Krishna, because factually, in the Vaikuntha planets, the Lord, where Krishna appears, it's actually Lakshmi Narayana. It's Lakshmi and Vishnu. Vishnu, all the Vishnu expansions are Baladev. Now, in Goloka Vrindavan, in the Supreme Abode, to understand this more about the theology of Balaram, and it's all there in all Prabhupada's books, completely. And Prabhupada is not deviant, he's not heterodox, he's extremely orthodox. And so this can all be found there in the Krishna-centric Vrindavan Mathura form Krishna-centric Vaishnavism, which is where Pure Land Buddhism really very much emanates from. That's why the doctrines are so the same in Vrindavan Mathura and in Pure Land Buddhism. The iconography of Pure Land Buddhism derives from very much from Vrindavan Mathura. I can show anybody the evidence that Vrindavan Mathura was very closely connected with Rhodes, because we know the art forms are back and forth. But anyway, we'll get into that now. So, even in the Supreme Abode, all of the masculine forms, Nanda Maharaj, the father of Krishna in Vrindavan, and the elderly Gopas, the other men in the village, like Nanda Maharaj, and the older cowherd boys, the Balaram's age, or the older brother cowherd boys, and the cowherd boys, all of the masculine beings in Vrindavan are all expansions of Balaram. So this is theology people have to understand. What to speak of all of the Vishnu forms or Narayana forms in the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, or all of the masculine forms of the Lord in the material worlds, the Saha worlds. Now, even the variegated forms of Krishna for pastime, for instance, in the Gopas and in the rasa dance of Krishna's expansions, all of Krishna's expansions are through Balaram. So, there's really two beings that experience Krishna directly. Just two. Radha and Balaram. Radha is Krishna's separate receiving capacity. Eternally separate. Eternally independent. Has her own being and eternally equal to Krishna, the original giver in all capacities. She's the original receiver, the original Shekinah, Shakti. And she's got to be completely equal to him. Otherwise, he can't exist. Because she's the receiver and he's the giver. Now, separated out masculine capacity, this is very interesting, is Balaram, actually. But Balaram and Radharani never appear on the same altar. Ever. And only very esoterically in the Gaudiya tradition, when Nityananda and Chaitanya are on the same altar together, is it ever considered that Balaram and Radharani are appearing on the same altar. Because Chaitanya is considered to be the embodiment of Radha and Krishna, of their love, the embodiment of Radha and Krishna's love. And Nityananda is the incarnation of Balaram. And so, only then is it considered that Radha and Krishna and Balaram all appear on the altar at the same time. So in Vishnu temples, or Gaudiya Vaishnava temples, this is very interesting. When you have a murti of Radha and Krishna, what are you actually seeing? Lakshmi and Narayana. Any murti that you see of Krishna in any form in the material world is through within by Balaram. Now, they're very strict about this in the Gaudiya and the related Vaishnava tradition. You will never see an altar where Radha and Krishna in murti form are depicted together in like Vrindavan Leela, and they're worshipped like that. I mean, you just don't see that in the Gaudiya tradition, because They're always worshipped in awe and reverence because they're in a temple in the material world, and they're murtis. So they're not, running around like, just simple cloth on them, pastoral pastimes. They're given jewels and they're dressed up and there's all the fancy stuff and everything like that. And that's done on purpose because that was reminding you that you are worshiping Lakshmi Narayana. You cannot, you are only being revealed Radha and Krishna through Mary and Jesus, you might say. You can understand that Mary's highest form is Radha, but you cannot approach her as Radha. She's unapproachable as Radha. And the transcendent deity is unapproachable. Krishna is unapproachable. Balaram is approachable. So we're getting back to the most renounced forms here now. Balaram is Krishna's renunciation, self-renunciation. So he renounces himself and he expands himself in countless forms. Balaram is his second self. If we go over to Pure Land Buddhism and the Trikaya, we find out that Amitayas is called the reflex. There's some, translations, there's modern scholars trying to understand this. They will say he is they don't use the word expansion, might say emanation. Maybe they say the word expansion, but normally they will say a strange word like reflex. Amitayas is the second person of Amitabha. Asu, Yahoo, is the second person of Eli. Sometimes they're worshipped as father, and sometimes, mostly, they're worshipped as like brothers. Because one is an emanation, expansion of the other. It's the same God. It's two persons of the same Godhead. The third person is that immanent Holy Spirit in the heart of all beings in the Saha worlds. We were trying to get to lawless love.
Yeah, it seems unique in the Vaishnava tradition.
Okay. And I was going to point out things in Catholicism. Mm-hmm. So what is the nature of this lawless love? What does it mean to be lawless?
It's against the conventional standards. It has to be secretive, or
it's so powerful that it overwhelms and overcomes all social conventions, all other priorities, all other prohibitions against it. Now, the supreme rasa of Parakya Ras, or lover rasa, in Vaishnavism, you have to understand, first you have to understand, this is not about some mundane woman and man having some affair. This is about God and the soul, the self. And of course, in Catholicism, we also have this understanding that, like Jesus said, unless you're willing to leave father and mother, unless you're willing to leave everything, don't bother coming to follow me. All through the tradition we're talking about, the perennial tradition that we're talking about, the radical notion of the freedom of love and the Dionysian, I'm not saying this pseudo-Dionysian orgiastic stuff, but because the real Dionysus is Balaram, the second person of Godhead. Unless that love is an overcoming, transcendent love, it's not real love. And how do you know real love unless it's been tested? So, the stories and the theology of Parakya Ras in Vaishnavism describe, illustrate the nature of that lawless love originates in it's really about love of God. The soul that loves God, and I'll hearken to your Sufi mysticism here, the soul that loves God must be willing and able to transcend every single obstacle to that love. If those obstacles be conventions of mankind, even if they be nature, because God is above nature. So if I have to leave my body in order to be with God, I will ultimately transcend my body. I'll actually ultimately leave my body. I'm ready. Let's go now, you know. What is more compelling to a living being than the preservation of one's own life? And what is the most radical expression of love? No greater love has any person that'll give up their life for another. Now, that is a love that violates the greatest law of nature, which is self-preservation. So if self-preservation itself, if the life of the body, if the attachment to the body itself can be violated, can be thrown aside with abandon for the sake of love, which we actually see throughout history, you know, people that have sacrificed their life for love, then certainly the self, the soul, is willing to abandon all other varieties of religion and surrender to the power of love, the power of God. It's like Krishna says in Gita, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender. That's about Parakya Ras. People say, well, where is Parakya Ras in the Gita? Where does the Gita talk about that? You know, the Gita tells us about love, but it doesn't go into the rasas. I say when Krishna says abandon all variety of religions and religion and just surrender to me, he's Rasaraj talking. He's the king of love, the Lord of love talking. And he's saying, just get rid of all the rest of it and just surrender. Surrender to love of me. You know, whatever that flavor of love is, surrender to it. And if that is the conjugal love, then you've got to abandon all varieties of religion. What does that mean? That means it's just like Chaitanya would say. There are no hard and fast rules. When you're calling on God, you're invoking the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's Rasaraj. All the rules and regulations, everything goes right out the window. You want to have a personal, direct, intimate relationship with God. Just like the perfect yes of Mary, when we say, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. What words are those? That's the greeting of the angel Gabriel to Mary. So what is the response? Why are we saying these words? What is the response? We are placing ourselves in Mary's position, and we are drawing force. We are having Gabriel draw forth from us, from our soul, that perfect yes of Mary, that perfect receptivity, that emptiness. You know, the Catholic tradition, the apophatic practitioners, they like to talk about kenosis. They like to talk about emptiness. But really what that really is that is the receptivity of Mary. That's the receptivity of Radharani, and the highest form of the Shekinah of God is that receptivity within deity. So unless we find ourselves in that position of the perfect yes of Mary, what was Mary's response? Be it done to me. Not my will, but thy will, O God. You know, complete abandon, complete. And in that complete abandon, in that complete letting go, in that completeness, a complete receptivity is complete freedom. To thine own heart be true.